Bapu, do you teach mindfulness as most traditions do?
Not exactly, but what they're teaching is good. Focus. Focus. Awareness training. So it's good. We have here, because of, let's say, my musical background and history, it's more about sound and chanting for the same purposes. It's about hewing, most importantly. Hewing, relaxing. And inhaling the sound from above the head into the body and all of its parts. And the sound bringing light, sound corresponding to light, and it's awareness, basically. And if we're chanting, then you're polarizing the atoms relative to a particular tone, which brings in a whole other dynamic of it, which as far as musicians are concerned, is what they're doing. They're working with the sound. Because the sound is sound because of silence, and so sound and silence are part of the equation here. So you have the physical and you have the immaterial, matter and energy. The spirit that is implied in the sound, and that's what we're here to do, spiritualize our bodies and be aware of it so it's conscious. See? And so any way you can get to that, whether it's a certain form of mindfulness, attention, and going through the body and picking up body parts, all of this is very much part of the process of becoming more conscious and at rest with oneself completely. So again, we have a musical version of it, but it's always about the breath, because in any field you have to have relaxation to be the best at what you have to do. In every field, so it's not about religion, it's not about philosophy, it's really about physics. We're talking about the psychophysics of our state of consciousness. So, in fact, the medical profession should be first in line to give us these directions. See how to balance the mind, how to relax the brain and relax the body, and all of this. See, that we have to turn to yoga to find out about, and or get it from some native source. See. But again, relative to music, you have to relax. To get the best out of you in terms of your voice, you need to practice relaxing your breathing and relaxing your singing, right? So that you're able to get the most out of your performance. This is true regarding anything that anybody's got to do out here. Relax, get the most out of yourself. So that's mindfulness, I think, generally, universally speaking. Of course, there's a different approach to it here, but it's basically the same thing. Relax first, say. Inhaling, deeply, consciously, and affecting your consciousness so that you relax. See, commanding yourself to relax. See, putting the stress down, putting it out of you. Yeah, so it's universal, and different systems are perhaps adding different aspects of intelligence awareness to it. So there's different technology, but to accomplish the same purpose. See, bring you to peace, so that you have this, let's say, emptiness, this sense of silence to work from there. You build from that, so it's not about negative, anything negative. No, it's absolutely positive. To get to zero means you're able to start from that. Everything is then available to you. So nothing's standing in the way of what you need to create. That's why I call it zero heart space. Infinite space. And that heart then is the infinite light itself. Which everyone is. We need to breathe that back and forth between beings, between realities.
What, if anything, are the limitations of mindfulness practice, so-called?
Second?
What, if any, are the limitations of mindfulness
Depends
practice?
on what the mindfulness practice is, in a specific sense. Depends on what it is, what it's emphasizing, if there would be any limitations.
Can mindfulness lead to realization?
Of course. Yeah, you don't even need mindfulness to get to realization. As I say, zero. Get to zero. If you can figure out what zero is and completely relax into that, radically so, then you might have realization. So realization can come by deliberation or by accident. You can slip into it. In fact, some people do. It could be random realizations. See, momentary flashes, moments of realization. Enough to bring you to, the ultimate realization. But it depends on how you perceive it, how you process it. And not everyone is that sensitive You need the sensitivity and the intelligence and the awareness and the right conditions, perhaps, to be there and stay there as such, and to understand it perfectly forever as such, if that's possible. It's just a possibility.
Is the development of mindfulness a progression?
The development of it,
Yes.
the practice of it is to get you to relax so that you have an opportunity. And that's what it is. We're calling it mindfulness. I'm calling it zero heart space. Zero heart space, same thing. See, coming to zero. See, mindfulness brings you to zero. Peace, clearness, openness. See? And with it, then the ability to use your mind in a certain specific way. See, when we're talking about what I do, it's for music. But for others, it's something else. Maybe to relax themselves. But the idea to relax yourself so that you become a better performer at whatever it is you have to do, whether it's to drive a cab or perform surgery, doesn't matter. Or to be a good person, right? To be a good relation to somebody, good relative, good family member, good teacher, good student, whatever it is you're doing. You do it without stress because you're mindful of yourself. That means you're conscious of your own awareness and you're consciously creating that. Watching, but not watching. It's, if we get into the theory of it, then you get lost in theory. And thinking about it. It's not a thought process. It's a direct experience. It's a breathing exercise. And how far you can go with that breathing exercise beyond sitting here listening to this conversation. And if you're in the wave of it, so you can keep the wave going on beyond here, and it's part of your life, because we are part of that wave. The idea is to be attuned to it, so you stay part of that wave. Remain in the wave, as such. And then go beyond that to the no wave, so it's not even a box of any form.
Do catastrophic conditions lead to mindfulness?
It can happen by accident, yes, of course. Yes, can be shocked into it. Even deeper states than just mindfulness, I guess we can say that. Mindfulness, I think, is key to getting to meditation for some people. Deeper states, getting to samadhi, and then getting to realization if there's a progression, say. But that's all also here now, in this moment. There's not a progression. There is no progression.
As we develop mindfulness, do we lose something else? Does it take away?
Well, the idea here is a good question, because the whole purpose of, let's say, being conscious is to be able to, manage your neuroses, your stress. The idea is to know that you have the ability, which is a miracle of it, that you have the ability to be zero, heart space, completely open, not in any traditional context, just open, as your spiritual nature is radically, absolutely, utterly open in all directions. Conscious, awake. And so if you can have a moment of that, even considering that, then, I mean, it all starts there. It's a revolution. It begins in that moment. That you weren't really what you were before. What are you now? And what are you to be next? So it's a revolutionary moment. It's a breakthrough. It's crisis. Crisis of, let's say, openness. Crisis of awakening, perhaps, or something. So it's useful. Yeah. And you can, as a musician, that can happen at any point when you're playing, depending on the conditions. All of a sudden, you think you're playing something, and then something else can enter, because consciousness is infinite. So people who are skeptical about, oh, it's not you. There's no you. There's never been a you. The whole idea of the you and the me is a markup. It's a convenient sort of markup. See? Relative to what? The self-mind, the body-mind. And it's necessary. It's okay. That's not all there is. Right? Then there's infinite consciousness. There is the unconscious and the superconsciousness. And you have to be open to those possibilities. Otherwise, how are you going to know outside of your fear what that might be for you? Right? God. See, how are you going to know that? If you fear, how are you going to know it? If you fear, I mean, that's self-fear, limitation. reaction, contraction, some say. And when we're talking about the potential of infinite expansion, and so you need that moment, see, of zeroness, zero heart space. That recognition, that realization that you are nothing for everything to be your potential.
How does zero heart space impact one's ego?
What ego? Zero heart space is transcendence of anything. Like ego, there's nothing. Again, ego is a convenient mask you can put on to satisfy a certain drama or act somewhere. Here we're talking about pure being. You have to go back to the cause. The source, the basis is pure being to begin with. So the ego is the smell. It's a fragrance. What you have to wear in order to show up a certain way at a certain time for a certain condition. A game you play. An act you perform. A song you play. But then there's pure being beyond the forms of itself. And that's what we need to come back to, whether it's through crisis, awakenment, trauma, awakenment, say, or combat, awakenment, or relational, let's say, tragic relational awakenment, some sort, whatever it is. Death, loss, awakenment, business loss, catastrophe, awakenment, whatever it is. Yeah, right. To get back to this point, to begin again, is very important, and that's what our capability is. Yeah. Restart. Now, in other words, no time. To get back to that factor, timelessness. We're always in timelessness, and it's good to think about it. We are timeless in nature. And then time becomes something else, theory, perception. And useful in the, let's say, the construction of, let's say, existing in the time-space worlds, as we are. On time, in time, ruled by time, for the most part. Heartbeats, brainwaves, time machine, universe, time machine, breathing, pulse generator, nuclear reaction. We're all of that. God, the God machine.
Is chanting a means to get from time to timelessness?
Chanting's already timeless. And that's what you realize, that if you're stuck in time patterns, as soon as you start chanting, if you understand, if your intuition is proper, then you see that you're in your now. So you're in your nowness and you have a voice. The idea is to have an opportunity to see what you really have, and that's a voice. So silent meditation is good, but you also have a voice you need to bring out. So the chanting enables you to have your voice and your cake and eat it too. And we're being chanted right now. Okay? And that's because we're not able to hear unless we tune into the chant, the cosmic exhale, hail and Brahma. See, we're in that right now. We're being exhaled. The universe is expanding, we're part of the exhalation. We need to be able to hear that because we're being that right now. We're being exhaled. And the exhalation is the ultimate exhalation is you. Yeah.
How do we develop mindfulness beyond the state of meditation or chanting?
How do you develop who?
Mindfulness, so that it's all the time.
Well, it is all the time. You have to be all the time in order for it to be all the time. See? So if you're not all the time, it can't be all the time. So you need to be what it is, all the time. Exactly. Right.
What is the relationship or comparison between mindfulness and no mind or mindlessness as in the great equation?
Well, the idea of mindfulness is really an effort to recognize pure beingness. It's like coming back to it. That's why it's an elementary, fundamental for, say, the traditions. In terms of the practice, you start with that. You have to come back to that. See, it's a starting point. Coming back to zero. That's why I say zero heart space. It's directly correlating to that. See, it's a different concept. Let's say zero means infinite. See, infiniteness already, infiniteness. And it's even not about. It's not even about mind. See, there's no mind. Yeah, already. See. But for peeps who haven't, let's say, the scope of understanding mindlessness, see, no mind. So you start with mind. It's more concrete to step up to what it is. The theories. You have a mind, you have a body, you have arms, you have legs, you have a mind. You're a thinking being, so it's always fundamental to, let's say, expansion of your intelligence and your awareness from, let's say, theory to higher practice. See. So there's no mind. Never was a mind, so. Mindfulness is then sort of being conducted spontaneously. And it's not like the negation of mind, which is ignorance. This is like the realization of mind, transcending form and concept, so it's awakening.
Is no mind Zen?
Zen? What is Zen?
You tell me.
There's no one to tell. There's no telling.